Hello and welcome to the most serious crypto news of the past day. The price of Bitcoin is $70,300, which means that our assumption yesterday turned out to be correct. And now price spikes are taking place against the background of the statement by the United States and Iran regarding oil. And we will analyze the situation in more detail in 1 minute in the first news. The situation is similar on Ethereum. The price is $2,050, but the main thing is that a T-Rex pattern has formed on the chart, which means that Ethereum is strong and ready to destroy everyone on its way. And now let's get to the news. Day 10 of Middle East conflict, Trump's Florida press conference on Iran war. So Trump gave out a dose of optimism, saying that the conflict with Iran is almost completely over and promised to lift some of the oil sanctions. And the market reacted instantly like trained dog. Bitcoin rose and tested 70,000 level, while oil, on contrary, collapsed from $120 to $90. It would seem that all is good, but that's not the case. Iran apparently did not read Trump's press release, and they issued the response: "We will not allow the export of single liter of oil from the region if the attacks on the country continue." So now Bitcoin is frozen in uncertainty again, whether to enjoy cheap oil and hope for peace or to prepare for a new round of geopolitical chaos. One thing is for sure, the coming days will be fun. Crypto funds gained $690 million as markets hold up despite oil and warfares. Despite the rising oil prices, crypto funds has raised $619 million and the macroeconomics are storming. However, the dynamics were similar to those of bipolar disorder. For the first 3 days, investors poured in $1.44 billion, and on Thursday and Friday, they abruptly changed their minds and withdrew $829 million. CoinShares explains this by nerves due to oil prices and unfulfilled hopes for a reduction in inflation. The Americans brought in the lion's share, $646 million, but the Europeans, Asians, and Canadians, on contrary, they withdrew. Apparently, they were afraid of geopolitics, and Bitcoin, as always, is at the top, $521 million in inflows, or with 11.4 million of them in short products, which indicates polar opinions. And among the altcoins, Ethereum with $88.5 million and Solana with $14.6 million distinguished themselves. But XRP became the only major asset from which investors amicably withdrew, minus $30.3 million. Apparently, they were tired of waiting for victory over the SEC. If you like my content, don't forget to like up this video and subscribe to the channel. This way you won't miss the next news yourself and will help my channel grow. Startup Starcloud plans first Bitcoin mining satellite in a low Earth orbit. So Starcloud, which has already launched the NVIDIA H100 clip into space, has now decided to send ASIC miners into orbit. CEO Philip Johnston said that by the end of the year, they will launch a satellite with equipment for mining Bitcoin directly in space. And the argument is a reinforced concrete. On Earth, mining consumes 20 gigabytes of energy, but in space, solar energy is free and endless. Plus, ASIC devices are about 30 times cheaper than GPUs, 100 per kilowatt versus 30,000 for a B200 chips. And according to him, sooner or later, all this has to go into orbit. Starcloud has already submitted an application to the FCC for the deployment of 88,000 satellites for orbital data centers, and some of them are being used for mining. However, it all comes down to SpaceX and the launch of Starship, which is scheduled to take place in March. If Elon Musk's rockets fly properly, then by the end of the year, we will see the first space Bitcoin. Competitors are not sleeping as well. There is also a startup, Intercosmic Energy, which also aims at space miners, but so far only on the site. In general, Bitcoin is soon going to be mined in places where even the AI bubble will not reach. And the main thing is that the astronauts don't start mining on the sly on the ISS. CryptoQuant says surging oil is a headwind for Bitcoin. A Dark Force analysis gloomily states that oil has soared by 60% since the beginning of the year due to the disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, which is 20% of global black gold exports pass through there. And this is a direct blow to inflation and risky assets. Historically, when the oil is rising, Bitcoin enters the final phase of the cycle. In other words, this is not just a correction, but a potential oil shock that brings down everything in its path. Asia indexes fell by 68%, Japan's Nikkei 225 collapsed by 6%, and Bitcoin went to visit $65,700. But the most interesting thing is the reaction of traders. In Japan, amid panic, activity on Bitflyer exchange soared by 200%. People are all just running into Bitcoin from the falling yen. And on Hyperliquid, oil futures trading volumes broke weekend records, $720 million per day. At the same time, Bitcoin options show a complex picture. Someone insures against the drop to $61,000 and someone buys straddles with a strike of $72,000, expecting wild volatility. QCP analysts called Bitcoin's dynamic unexpectedly stable. And see, it's not so much as digital gold, but as a digital emergency exit for the Gulf countries, where the currency volatility and political instability are the norm. OpenAI hardware exec Caitlin Kalinowski quits in response to Pentagon deal. The head of robotics in OpenAI, Caitlin Kalinowski, slammed the door and quit because of the deal with the Pentagon. She wrote a heartfelt post that AI is important for national security, but spying on Americans without judicial permission and lethal autonomy without human approval is too much. According to her, the agreement was signed hastily without discussing the restrictions, and she probably hoped that ChatGPT would only generate kitty cats and not control drones. Sam Altman himself later admitted that the deal was rushed and does not look very good. But the OpenAI representative retorts. They say we have drawn the red lines, no internal surveillance and autonomous weapons. And in general, they say this is the responsible use of AI. However, after that, the number of ChatGPT's deletions jumped by 295%. And Claude from Anthropic soared to the top of App Store. Apparently, users vote with their wallets. The irony is that Anthropic, who refused to cooperate with the Pentagon for ethical reasons, is now under attack himself. Trump ordered them kicked out of all federal agencies, and the Pentagon declared the company a supply chain risk. Now, Anthropic is facing trial, and the ex-White House advisor said that there is little chance because the courts rarely changes national security decisions. In general, OpenAI got a contract and a scandal. Anthropic got principles and problems, and Kalinowski got a clear conscience and free time. And that's going to be all the news for today, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!